All right, we're on. We're live. All right, g'day everybody. It's Mitch here again. Big day 3 for Australia. Massive in terms of the context of the world champs. Not a lot of athletes competing compared to how many athletes we've had competing over the last few days, but nonetheless, a huge day for Australian athletics. And if you didn't quite catch it, we have won our first medal of the championships, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but it was a cracking day. You can see I'm burnt. Obviously, the sun was beaming down. It was hot all day. There was never a moment where it wasn't stinking hot, but yeah, phenomenal day. I'm going to get into it quickly. I'm going to get into it early. Let's start off with our men's 400 metres. So 5-time world champ representative now, Steve Solomon. He led us off there in the first heat. Just wasn't quite the race that you're used to seeing Steve run, to be honest. Usually he's out early, he's out hard, and he's pushing quite early in the 400. Just looked like, I know he had a little bit of a hampered preparation, I was hearing after the race, so maybe that played into it. But he finishes 6th in heat number 1, and he runs a 46.87. So whilst that's not up to Steve's standard, you've also got to recognise that if he did have a hampered preparation coming into it, the fact that you can still run 46.87 is quite admirable, and we all know Steve is a tough competitor, so he'll bounce back. He can now focus on Birmingham in a few weeks' time, and yeah, I thought he fought really hard. It just wasn't his day, so sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. Alex Beck was our second one, the 400-metre national title holder. He was in heat number 5. I actually had some DMs with Alex after the race, and I was running the agenda of slow down for Alex, slow down for Beck, because we wanted to see him in. He ran a really, really gutsy race. He got out really well, maintained incredibly well, and then in the final, I sound so biased, but then in the final 100, he was able to maintain and kick strong. He ran a 45.99, and he gets through on the little queue, so he didn't get the automatic qualifier, but he gets through on the timed qualifier through to the semis. Fantastic result. He just missed the semi-finals by famously 0.03 of a second at Tokyo last year, so he gets in by 0.02 of a second this time around. So a little bit of justice for Alex Beck, which we love to see. Moving on to the next one, our men's biggest distance of the carnival, because we have nobody in the men's marathon this morning. Jack Rayner got out there and spun the wheels over in the men's 10,000. He comes through for a 19th place in a 28.24. It was a very weird 10,000 metre race, I will say. Jack put himself in a nice position. It was started pretty standard. It went through in about 2:45, so they were certainly on for a fast pace, and Jack put himself just towards the back of the pack, just let it roll, let it sit for a while, and unfortunately he just missed the break. There was a break, I would say, just after halfway, and Jack just couldn't quite get a hold of it, and he found himself out the back of it, but he was still chasing. He was picking off athletes the whole way through that were around his mark, and he ends up coming 19th. I thought it was a gutsy effort, to be honest. It was a hard race. It was a cracking finish, though. I'll get to that a little bit later in the international stuff. But yeah, Jack just was at the back of the pack, missed the break, and just couldn't quite attach from there. So it certainly didn't go without effort. It certainly didn't go without a lot of trying and just grit from Jack, but just couldn't quite get there. Again, much like Steve Solomon, it just probably wasn't quite Jack's day, which is fine because we know him as an international pedigree athlete. Beautiful, no dramas. Moving on, our men's 110-metre hurdles, Nick Hoff, another 5-time world championship representative. He just draws on that experience now, Nick Hoff. Obviously, he's medalled at the Commonwealth Games. He's been to world champs. He's been in the Olympics, world unis, world juniors. Everything just about Nick Hoff has done. So coming into this situation, you think that there's nobody more equipped to be able to handle it than Nick Hoff. Well, that's exactly what happens. He comes through for 15th in the end. He came 7th in the third semi-final. He ran 13.42. It's one of the highest finishes we've seen as a men's hurdler in the last 25 years for Nick Hoff. So it was a phenomenal effort. He didn't make the final, obviously, which was a heartbreaking final. If you watched it in the crowd, it was insane, but I'll get onto that again in international news. But Nick Hoff fought hard in semi-final number 3, and he doesn't progress through, but again, really, really hard. Similar theme. You look at Nick, you look at Jack, you look at Steve. Didn't quite get the result they were hoping for, but it didn't go without effort, and it didn't go without grit and grind. So those 3 guys did really well. Moving on to the afternoon session of the day now, which was the Mad Panic one. This is the one I was desperately trying to get tickets for. I don't have tickets there every day, so I'm currently trying to figure out how to get them, but that's okay. Men's discus qualifying, Matt Denny, 4th at the Olympics, only just missed out on that bronze medal, you'll remember. He just came out cool, calm, and collected. If you've never watched Matt Denny live, it's actually a show. He is just so loved and so admired by his his counterparts. Like, they were all hugging and high-fiving and slapping and smiling, and Matt Denny just looked like it was like the man in the arena, mate. He just, like, he walked in and he just he knew that he was going to get through, knew it. I had no doubt standing on the sideline. I actually DM'd Matt for tickets, so Matt, if you ever watch this, that was me in your DMs for tickets for tonight. But he just came in and did his thing. He threw 64 in the first, 66 was the auto-qualifying mark, gets through at 66.98, just walks off. How you going? Grabs a cup of tea and straight to bed. So Matt Denny just walked in, literally the definition of go in and do your job. Matt Denny just walked in and did his thing, looked cool, calm and collected, and gave a lot of hugs on the way through, which we love. We love a little bit of man love. Our men's 1,500 metres semi-final. So we had two in that. We had Ollie Hoare in semi number 1 and Stewie McSwain in semi number 2. Semi number 1 was interesting. It was a weird sort of race. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, you have to respect Jakob Ingebrigtsen. He's an Olympic champion. He's done just about everything at such a young age. But he seems to get it his way. Like, there was this point on the back straight where there was not a singular open, and that's not a knock on Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Like, he just commands this respect, and people seem to just give it to him. He had this moment up the back straight where he was on the inside rail. There would have been an inch of room next to him, and somehow he managed to scoot his way through and get to the front, control it, get through to the finals. It was no dramas for Jakob. But looking at Ollie Hoare, he got to the front. Like, he did his thing, Ollie. Like, he put himself in a really smart position, right? It was a little bit back and forth. It was a little bit chop and change. There was a tumble in Ollie's as well. So, that was in Stewie's. I'll take that back. And, Ollie put himself in the position like we've seen so often Ollie does. Like, he is a master tactician, and he did that today, and unfortunately he just ran out of wheels. Like, the race in the last 100 metres, as any 1,500 metres is, it was a mad kick, and yeah, Ollie just didn't quite have the wheels. But it just goes to show, Ollie Hoare is human. You know what I mean? Like, we come to expect so much from Ollie Hoare now, which is fine because he's such a pedigree athlete, but sometimes he just doesn't quite have his best day, and that's okay as well. Like, the pressure gauge for Ollie Hoare is so high. I thought he did a really good job. He just didn't quite have the wheels in the end, and he comes 10th in that first heat, 3:38.86, and he won't progress through to the final. So good job from Ollie nonetheless. Stewie McSwain in semi number 2 just gets to the front. We love seeing Stu do this. He just gets straight to the front. He had this little slingshot maneuver after the first 200 where he was sitting wide in lane 3 and then just carted himself in. Stayed at the front for a long period of time, Stewie. He was pushing the pace. Like, these guys must know now, if you're running against Stu, it's going to be hot. Like, you're not going to piss around. It's going to be fast. He did that. Got to the front. Similar to Ollie, probably the wheels fell off just a little bit in the last 100 metres or so, but he was strong enough to get through. He comes 5th in his heat. He runs he runs 3:35.07, and he's through to the final. It's our first ever Australian male through to the 1,500 metre final at a World Championships. Thanks to David Tarbottom for that, the superlatives. He was great, and he gets through. So we have a man in the 1,500 metre final. We have 2 women in the 1,500 metre final. We have Matt Denny going through to the discus final. Nick Hoff didn't make it through to the 110 hurdle final, but that's okay. He comes 15th through the semis. Jack Rayner, 19th. Alex Beck makes it through to the semi-finals for the men, and Steve Solomon just misses out. Now, don't think I'm forgetting the biggest part of the day. This should put a smile. This should put pride in every single Australian. Nina Kennedy comes through in the clutch. It was so clutch. You have no idea. Like, Nina Kennedy is such a great athlete for Australia. She's such a good story too. She's had so many knocks. She's had so many injuries. She's been to major championships. She just hasn't been able to quite get through to the medals and get through to that podium, and she deserves it so much. And like, she comes in at 4:35. She no jumps. She misses the bar twice early, which is, like, you got to imagine that's so nerve-wracking. But Nina Kennedy just clutches it there in the third and then goes bang, bang, bang. First clearance on all of them all the way through to 480. 482 is her PB, so she's only 2 centimetres off her PB. Gets up to 485 at this point. Has the bronze medal on lock. We had to wait for the Greek athlete to jump, and she missed, so she knows she's got the bronze. But she was so just like, when I heard that she got the bronze, I was watching her and I thought, oh, maybe she'll have a little, a moment, like finally I've got this medal. But nah, she was just locked in. Like, it was so admirable. She was just locked in, and I think she's taken the Nicola McDermott mentality, because she was writing a lot of things in her book and all that sort of stuff along the way too. So Nina Kennedy just misses 485 on the second attempt, pushes to 490, no brainer, doesn't quite clear it, but comes home with a bronze. It's Australia's first medal of this championships, and it couldn't go to a more deserving athlete than Nina Kennedy. So she gets through. She's our first world champion medalist as well, medal in the women's pole vault. And think about the pedigree we've had. We had Liv Parnov not too long ago jumping so high. Nina Kennedy, the first one to do it. So massive love, massive congratulations to you, Nina Kennedy. You can watch all of her jumps here on Athletics Exclusive as well. I was lucky enough to film that. Now, international news. Americans are sweeping everything here. It is ridiculous. I understand that they have that home crowd advantage and all that sort of stuff. And they are, again, staying in a hotel and everybody else is in a dorm room, apparently. So I'm not sure whether that's adding to it or not. But the Americans are killing it. Like, they clean swept the men's 100. They went 1-2 in that women's pole vault tonight. They've gone 1-2-3 in the men's shot put. Crowds are clutch fifth round throw. They're just dominating at the moment. And the crowd is loving it. Like, the crowd, like, I need to just take still shots of the crowd, because listening to the claps, listening to the cheers, listening to the moments of silence, like, Eugene has turned it on. It really has. Like, it is a phenomenal World Championships. Now, moving on to distance, the men's 10,000, you got to be prepared for anything and everything in this men's 10,000 meters and in distance in general. These races, it was almost like a fartlek. It was fast, slow, maintain fast, drop back, kick forward. Like, that front pack was, you must have had a bloody headache by the end of it. Like, they were just, it was so choppy and changing and you couldn't quite find the right rhythm. But those guys seemed to do it well. You know, the hard luck story of Grant Fisher, he comes fourth. He was fifth at the Olympics. He's now fourth at this World Champs, and only by 0.4 of a second or something. Like, his final 100 was off its ass. Like, he was flying. And this crowd, mate, I'm surprised you didn't hear it from Melbourne. They were absolutely blowing the roof off a joint that didn't have one. It was insane. And they just had to be prepared for everything. Cheptegei, he's class. We all know that. And he comes out with the win again. But this men's distance that we have right now is a real renaissance era of distance running, and they're showing different ways to win. So it's incredible. Now, I'm going to put some pride in myself. I told you this yesterday. I dropped this yesterday. It didn't take a bloody brain surgeon to figure it out, but I still said it. You know, a lot of people, they weren't ready to say it. I was ready to say it. Jamaican women clean sweep that 100. It was insane. Like, they just flew. It was just... I was like, you were watching it and everyone just knew almost before it started. It was like, okay, well, these women are not going to miss. Like, they are going to come through. They are going to take 1, 2, and 3. And it's the typical people as well that are going through with it. I'm just going to get the result because I don't want to get these three wrong. Well, Thompson Farrar, obviously, she was behind. She was in second place. I'm trying to remember exactly. Fraser Ann, she won. It was incredible. They all just worked so well together as well. And the camaraderie, like, Jamaica takes up half the stand. Like, they got vuvuzelas, they got everything going. The women were incredible. Now, the last one, the devastating story of Devon Allen. If you missed the men's 110-metre hurdle final, it was, you've never seen a crowd turn on an official like this crowd turned on the starter. It was off its nut. Like, so Devon Allen, for those of you that don't know, he went to the University of Oregon. He's been to the Olympics twice. He's been to the World Champs. He's leaving athletics. He's signed a 3-year contract with the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFL. And very sadly and very unfortunately, his father passed away in the last week. So Devon Allen was running with a lot of weight on his shoulders and a lot of expectation of himself. And I'm sure, you know, still grieving the loss of his father. Like, that is just undescribable what that would be like. And, anyway, he makes it all the way through the final. This man's got the crowd going. He's hyping them up. He's going, come on, everybody. And he false started. He literally, but you couldn't see it. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, we were all watching, couldn't see the false start. He obviously did, but he was 0.099 was his false start, was his reaction time. Now, I'm pretty sure the rules are if it's under 0.0, like 0.1, like 100, whatever, it's not a false start, but I could be very wrong. I'm not a sprinter. That's just what the crowd around me was saying. So Devon Allen misses out, and, you know, obviously Grant Holloway goes on a win. Trey Cunningham comes second. America go 1-2 again, talking about that whole podium thing, but it was so devastating and he wouldn't leave. Like, he wouldn't leave the track. He went back and forth 3 or 4 times to the officials going, you know, what the hell's going on here? Like, let me look at it. He looked at the tape. He wouldn't get off. They red carded him twice. Said, mate, you got to go. He wouldn't go. And you can understand why. Like, he would have felt devastated. And anyway, obviously he left. And I'm not kidding. This whole crowd is around and they're going, let him run. Let him run. And the Yanks are booing and they're just yelling. Like, this, I'm not kidding. They're on the start line. And this is after he's been disqualified, and they're going, on your marks. And some bloke from the grandstand goes, this is bullshit. It was just like, mate, they're about to start the race. You can't be screaming that. But Devon Allen unfortunately misses out on his chance to run the final and claim a world title before he goes off to the NFL. Interesting whether or not he decides to keep kicking on just because Budapest is next year and give it one more crack. That's just me. I don't know, but that's just me. So that's it. That's the day 3 recap. Thank you so much for all of you who have jumped in and joined along. This will be available on a podcast as well, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Again, if there's anything literally you want to see, I'm posting all the field event stuff because one of the biggest common gripes of the Australian athletic community is that field events don't get covered enough. Obviously, Dave Colbert is the greatest advocate for that field and track, but I'm trying my best to show as much of that as I can. Before you do it, Baxter, no, you can't join the live. And yeah, if there's anything you really want to see, please do let me know. Massive thank you again to Athletics Exclusive for giving me this platform to do this, and I hope you're all enjoying it. I'll see you all for day 4. We'll be up bright and early to go watch the women's marathon tomorrow morning and cheer on our Aussies. So have a great day, everybody. That's Mitch, over and out for the day.